You didn't see me, Ken. Totally in the dark. How was that? A little bit better? Yes, it's better that you can't see me. Too much. Weirdest boner now. Just showing you the water. How many models are off screen? Not nearly enough. We're up to 0. Why is Hillary laying low? Well, she's either raising money and planning strategy and milking the lead, or she's not feeling that well. You just finished watching the morning one. It's funny, that Morning Joe and Mika thing is just sort of like a lover's threesome situation. It's kind of weird. It's a sideshow. I believe you are possibly conscious, but more likely scenery in my sideshow, in my simulation. Do you believe the Provigil story? That Hillary's took some kind of a drug in the past? I'm not sure any of that matters yet. So far, it's been a lot of confirmation bias. I haven't seen anything that would directly implicate her for being unhealthy. My own opinion is that she looks unhealthy, but I'm saying this as a layperson, not a doctor. But what I've been writing about and talking about for the past year is the power of persuasion. And I'm a trained hypnotist. Some of you don't know that, but it's true. And one of the things that hypnotists learn to do as part of the process of being a hypnotist is they learn how to detect small changes in people. Skin tone, breathing, pupils of their eyes, that sort of thing. And my observation is that Hillary has a great variability from one time to the next. You see her one day and she looks one way, you see her the next day she looks another way. Whereas Trump and most healthy people kind of look the same every day. So my hypothesis, based on my non-medical observation, is that she's being chemically regulated, and there's some variability in it. Menopause could be a variety of things. Doesn't have to be one thing. CNN and New York Times are discussing her health. Yes, they are. But I think you could thank Mike Cernovich for most of that. Is only your simulation real? Chelsea is Diane Reynolds in emails. I don't know what that means. I said Dianetics is hypnosis. What clues do I have to that? Well, the whole process of auditing, I won't get into it here, but you create a situation that is much like a hypnotic induction. And so the Dianetics folks are doing something that functionally is hypnosis. Chelsea's pseudonym? You mean in the emails? When is Trump going to unleash his linguistic kill shot? I'm not drinking tonight at all. I don't drink. I don't think there's going to be another linguistic kill shot. You think the Foundation is the bigger story? Well, not unless they find something new. No, I don't have any friends who used to work for clandestine services. Do I eat waffles? Occasionally. Solipsist? Well, sativa, definitely. Yeah, I don't think the Foundation is a big story because there's not going to be any smoking gun. There's some things that nobody writes down, and if there was any tit for tat going on, and one assumes there might have been, it was sort of the indirect kind, not the kind somebody says, hey, I'll give you this if you give me that. I don't have any good books on hypnosis per se, but if you Google the terms Persuasion reading list, you'll see the books on persuasion that I recommend. And I think one of them is on hypnosis, but I haven't actually read that one. It's just one that got good ratings on Amazon. A Mormon problem? Can I teach you some hypnosis techniques? Yes. I'll tell you the simplest one. If you just assume that people are irrational all the time, and you just say, all that matters is the thoughts that I associate with other thoughts, then you would be way ahead in the persuasion game. So, if you wanted somebody to like you, for example, let's say you meet somebody of the opposite sex or whichever sex you prefer, and you want them to like you, if the first thing out of your mouth is, say, a complaint or a reference to something disgusting, that person will forever associate you with that comment. And anything you say after that is going to be overwhelmed by that image you associated with yourself. So instead, people say one of the best questions you could ask somebody that you're just getting to know and you want them to like you is, do you have any vacations planned? Because when people think of the vacation they have planned, there's nothing that's gone wrong with that vacation yet. It's probably exciting. So they just think positive thoughts, and they think about you for having asked the question. And next thing you know, you're both thinking about beaches and sun and feeling good. And that's what people remember about you. So that's your hypnosis trick. Everybody should avoid negative people for their health. I mean that literally, for your health. When was the last time I let my emotions get to me and got into an argument? Oh, that's a good question. I never think my emotions have gotten the best of me. I have raised my voice and I have gotten into argumentative mode, but I'm always pretty aware of what I'm doing when I'm doing it. How do you become efficient or simple? I think you just have to think about it all the time. Just everything you do. Is there an easier way? Is there an easier way? Yes, the book Persuasion will be added to my persuasion reading lists. Can you physically heal yourself with hypnosis? Maybe only to the extent that hypnosis could relax you. So if reducing your stress could help you heal, and I don't know that it can, then yes, indirectly, but not in a direct way. Yeah, Australia's on my list. I'll get there someday. Does tapping work? Do you mean as in ASMR or as in tap dancing? Yeah, there's big differences in persuasion for writing versus speaking. Just in the same reason there's differences in how you do humor when you're speaking it versus writing it. That would be a long topic, but yes, it would be very different. Yeah, imagining people as irrational makes your life so much better. Should you read Persuasion first? You mean Influence? You should read the book Influence before you read the book Persuasion. Is weed good for teenagers? I don't know. Probably not. No, having a good bullshit detector is completely different than being easily persuaded or hypnotized. I don't know about the binaural beats. I really don't know about that. I haven't seen any science about it one way or another, but I'm skeptical. You don't talk about self-hypnosis much. I don't. There's not much to it. It relaxes you. That's about the beginning and the end of the story. How do you recommend doing affirmations? I think just focusing on what you want, putting it into a sentence and repeating it 15 times a day. Anything changed since the Wall Street Journal article? Well, would you say that, let me ask you this, would you all say that Trump has stayed out of trouble for another day? Or do you think he has not? He's always on the edge of controversial. What do you think? Did Trump stay out of trouble again? Oh, thanks. If you want to read about affirmations, read my book, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. I've got a chapter in there in which I talk about the several ways that affirmations could be nothing but sort of an illusion, but possibly a positive illusion, one that you might like. And some ideas that are a little crazier on why there might be more to it than our tiny brains can comprehend. Is being on the edge of trouble good persuasion? Well, fear is always good persuasion, so probably. How did I come to that title? It's funny, book titles just sort of spring into my mind fully formed. And that one did as well. Retroactively removed. Bad. Yeah, that's interesting. Do you avoid any issues for reputation reasons? Yeah, lots of issues. I avoid blogging about just because I don't want to be associated with the topic. In the old days, I didn't know any better, so I thought if I said something rational about a provocative topic, people would say, well, the topic is provocative, but what you said is rational, so we're okay with you. But it doesn't work like that at all. If you talk about an irrational topic, people will say you're either on my side or you're not. And if they don't recognize you as being on their side, it doesn't matter how far you are from the other side, they're going to assume you're on it if you're not on their side, and they don't recognize it that way. So just writing about topics that people are angry about is a bad idea. Yeah, the school system, that seems like a topic that would get you in trouble. Best way to lose weight. There's also a chapter on that very topic in my book, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. I think the cat might be around here. The way I started a speaking career is that I got famous, and then people started contacting me and saying, "Hey, come speak." So I can't claim any skill in that. You know, I wouldn't call myself a libertarian just because I don't like the labels. And if I didn't fit every part of the label, I don't think I'd want to use it. What gives you confidence that he has good ideas for the country? I don't have that confidence. What makes you think I'm confident that Trump has good ideas for the country? I've said actually the opposite of that. I've said that my views don't align with either Clinton's or Trump's, and that's true. I've also said that, unlike most people who vote, I do not have any confidence that I would know who would be a good president. In the past, when I thought I did, I didn't. So now I don't. I don't believe that anymore. What's my biggest fear? Drowning. Direct democracy could make governments obsolete, or at least make governments just functionaries of the people, unlike what they are now. If you have a visceral dislike for Trump, am I brainwashed? No. If you have a visceral dislike for Trump, it's very analogous to the visceral dislike that people have for Clinton. They are two people who some people just can't stand. And some people can't stand both of them. Some people can't stand Clinton's voice. Some people can't stand looking at Trump or listening to anything that comes out of his mouth. So I don't think that has anything to do with being brainwashed. They are just two personalities that drive people crazy. Do you really think that you have a opinion on TPP that is well informed? Because I sure don't. Would you care if the white population was below 30% in the U.S.? You mean if that's the only variable that changes? That would be fine. How do I avoid that visceral reaction? I don't know that you can. Do I do that? People say I do that. Hillary sounds like your ex-wives. I hear that a lot too. The overbearing mother. Yeah, she does. She does feel a little preachy. Now, have you noticed? Is Cernovich good at persuasion? I think the evidence is that he is. That would be hard to miss. Asphyxiation, smothering, not as much for some reason. I don't know if I'm a history buff, but I like it when it's interesting. Oh, I'm sure the Russians are reading my email already. Trump's alleged pivot on immigration thoughts. You should read my blog post that I just put up tonight, around 4 hours ago maybe. And that will tell you what I think Trump should do immigration-wise. I have this hypothesis that, and see if you agree with me on this. all 200 of you. I have this feeling that a Trump presidency would be more participative for citizens. And to that end, I made a suggestion on my blog for how to pay for the wall. But I've got a feeling that because Trump is not beholden to the special interests, that a good idea could make it to him, and maybe he'd say, hey, I hadn't thought about that. Let's check out this idea. But if you got that same idea to a Clinton presidency, she'd be a little more likely to say, hey, let's have my special interests look at this and see if it's consistent with the laws that they want us to write. So I think it'd be a little harder for the public to be involved in a traditional government than it might for a more entrepreneurial Trump government. But that's probably just a bias. I mean, there's no scientific way to know that either way. Do you think history ever actually played out in the simulation? Well, I don't know what that means. How do you think Trump will do in the debates? I expect him to do better than we think he's going to do. I haven't read the 48 Laws of Power. It's not a time machine. That'd be cool. Am I saying Trump is the opposite of a dictator? There's evidence to say that. So, if you look at Trump's actions since he announced, he started out saying some pretty extreme things, but at the same time, he told us that he was a negotiator who always makes a big first offer. True to what he promised us, he is softening his offer as he gets into the general election, and he is being influenced by the public. So the public wanted him to change his position on abortion penalties for the woman, and he did immediately. They wanted him to change his immigration stance from super hard to less hard, and he did. And now he's talking about deportation, softening that perhaps, also based on the public. So if you were to say to yourself, what is the evidence that Trump is a dictator versus the evidence that he's a populist who has his ear in social media and changes when it makes sense, I would say the evidence is a pretty long history just over the past year of taking advice both from the public and from his advisors. He is taking advice by being on the teleprompter. He's taking advice by changing his policies. It looks like he's changed his haircut a little bit, and even looks like he has different makeup. So I wonder if he'll tweet when he's president. That's a good question. Probably. I brainwashed you off of Rubio. Do I think the simulation is mine alone, or are you sharing it? Well, 3 possibilities. 1, it's me alone. 2, we're all in some kind of shared simulation. Or 3, and this is one I like, the only people who are real in your simulation, meaning that they have consciousness, are people that are important to you, and that somehow you knew in a previous simulation or a previous real life. I'm not saying I believe this, I'm just saying it's fun to think about. So that, have you ever noticed that when you meet some people, they're just very meaningful to you right away? Sometimes you fall in love on first sight, but sometimes you say, oh, I just met my best friend, and you know it right away, and it never changes. But other people you meet, and there's just this dull, vacant look in their eyes, like they're just there for scenery. What if the people that register to you as real and meaningful and important to your life are the only ones who are actually real like you are, and all the rest really are scenery in a simulation? I have given up on love. Don't give up. It feels like everyone else is an extra in your life. You might be an introvert, like me. Yeah, of course Trump wants to win, but it doesn't matter why he's changing. I'm trying to talk you sleepy. How do you charge when fatigued with your business? I try to just do stuff I like to do. That helps. Thank you for ordering my book on Amazon. I do feel 50 cents richer. You want to love again? You should. First time in history that a billionaire will move into public housing. Alright, that was kind of clever. Will Don Jr. run for president? Someday. I'm thinking he will. Thank you for reading my book. How much do I get per book? I don't know, it's like 50 cents or something like that. How much money have you made from advertising your book on here? 0. Because we big important authors get paid in advances. So the more books I sell, the happier the publisher is. But I already got my money. Rich gets $6. That might be the case. Yeah, I don't know if it's 50 cents. Might be $1, something like that. Do I ever reread books? Pretty much never. Is it possible? Well, maybe. Well, the benefit of having a publisher is that they can pay you in advance, and it removes your risk as an author. So if you can get that deal, it's pretty good. I don't always do that. I did a couple of books with no advance, intentionally. Fourth Turning, I have not. Ender's Game, I have not. I don't read fiction. Do you own Bitcoins? I do not. I'm not writing a book right now. Hillary's on Kimmel tonight. Oh, is on the road? No, I'm in a hot tub in my backyard. Catcher in the Rye? Okay, I did read Catcher in the Rye. And that might be the only book I've ever read twice, actually. Lucky guess. Invested heavily in stocks? Yes, I am. Does getting paid cut into your potential earnings? No, not if you negotiate the right deal. Why don't you read fiction? I don't read fiction because even though I read very fast, I can't read quickly enough to be interested. And I've tried to explain this to other people, but I just end up sounding like a giant douchebag whenever I do. But anybody who's listening to me on here probably has read my blog and seen my comic or read my books. And you know that I'm unusually creative compared to the population at large. And when I read fiction, it just moves slowly compared to whatever's happening in my head. So my imagination is operating at, a higher speed than I can read. So reading fiction just bores me. But if I'm reading nonfiction and I'm learning something I don't know, there's nothing in my head to compete with it. So nonfiction is endlessly entertaining to me if it's learning something useful. No updates on joke architecture. Fiction is a good replacement for booze and drugs. I've heard that. You have to train yourself to read it slowly. But why? What would be the point? What's the point of reading fiction? To me, reading fiction doesn't register as entertainment. It registers as a sort of a punishment. I should give college degrees for listening to me talk in my hot tub. Ann Coulter, no matter what you think of Ann Coulter, her writing is sensational. That woman can put a sentence together, let me tell you. Dale Carnegie is excellent for social anxiety. Yeah, I'm no doctor, so if you've got something that requires medication, then you do. But if you just have shyness, then certainly Dale Carnegie would help a lot. Would you do Anne? I don't think she would consider that. She dated Bill Maher. Hey, I just hummed again. You're right. I do that sometimes. Is there a persuasion that you believe exists but hasn't been sufficiently proven for you yet? Oh, interesting. It's a really good question, but I don't have a really good answer for it because nothing jumps to mind. But I'll think about that because there may well be an answer to that question that doesn't come to me right now. Yeah, I like writing fiction. Writing fiction is great, but reading other people's fiction. Did my cancer misdiagnosis cause me to distrust doctors? I wouldn't say distrust, like in a sweeping way, but I'm skeptical of experts in all ways. Carnegie can change your life. Yeah, absolutely can. Yeah, I wrote about that in my book. That in my 20s I had a mistaken preliminary cancer diagnosis. The final diagnosis, of course, was that I did not have it. Uber Eats, do they have that here? Would you have sex with a doctor to save your brother's life? And I don't get to see the doctor in advance. Do you distrust doctors because they don't mean anything to you and hence are real? I wouldn't say that exactly. If you're a broke teenager, I don't know about paying $3,000, but I can tell you it was worth it to me. Can jokes be persuasive? People mistake jokes for being true. That's how they're persuasive. So if you can laugh at something, people say, well, if you can laugh at it, it must have been a bad idea. But sometimes you can make things funny, even when they are good ideas. Would you map your genome? Well, probably would, yeah. Thanks for loving me. Yeah, I probably will Periscope during the debates. Single best decision you made in your life? Moved to California. Sold my car for a one-way ticket to California. Why can't people recognize jokes? Well, that has to do with the messenger. So it turns out that communication is only good as what you believe about the messenger. So if your worst enemy said, look behind you, there's a monster, because your worst enemy said it, you'd think, it's a trick. As soon as I turn around, my worst enemy is going to hit me on the back of the head. But if your best friend said it, you'd probably believe it immediately. So the messenger is the message. No, that is not a pot plant behind me. You can't out-weird anyone. Probably not. Hillary has no credibility. Yeah, she does. Are you ever limited by your own brand? Of course. That's what brands do. Yes, we are very droughty here. If you lived life over, would you be more stubborn and uncompromising? Probably not. Probably. Is Cialdini reading me? I don't know. How would I know? Can Trump destroy your credibility? Oh, I take that back. I do know that Cialdini has read some of my writing. He did send me a note on Twitter to say he was enjoying my blog, but I don't know which ones he's seen and which ones he hasn't. I just know somebody's pointed him at the fact that I've mentioned him. Will I write a book about this election? It's under consideration, but I'm not sure I will be incented to do that. Meaning, I just don't know if... See, the trouble is, it's fun now because it's happening now, but I'm not a lover of history, so after this election's over, I'm not sure just even how much I'm going to care to think about it. Yeah, it definitely depends on the outcome. Follow up to the religion war? That's possible. Who has deliberately used persuasion for evil? Lots of people. Lots of religious leaders looking for money, for example. I originally held back Cialdini's name. Well, I didn't hold it back as much as you think I held it back. I was saying it in some online forums and not others. But I don't have confirmation that Cialdini is advising Clinton. But after I first speculated, somebody sent me a New York Times article that said he had consulted for Obama, and so it wouldn't surprise me if he's consulting for Clinton. But I don't have confirmation of that. Pundits who say it's too late for Trump to moderate, I say they do not have a good sense of how people process the passing of time. 2 months in this election is a lifetime, and if Trump just acts sane and not crazy, I guess that's the same thing, for 2 months he will have a commanding lead. No, Godzilla is more of a... was not intended as a kill shot. Godzilla was intended as a compliment about the size of his footprint in the world of persuasion. Why wouldn't I be more uncompromising? Because I think there was an assumption in that you think maybe I haven't been uncompromising enough. And I think I've led a pretty uncompromising life in terms of the things that matter to me. But I compromise plenty on things that don't matter to me. So I would see no reason to change that. He's up 5 points in Pennsylvania. Since when and by what poll? And up 5 points to what? Still behind? Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to nuke the Middle East. 5 points ahead? Huh. Dr. Gene Scott, exactly. He was a hypnotist. How has my brand limited me? Well, I wouldn't be able to do racier stuff. So remember when the Family Guy came on the scene? Dilbert was already pretty well established by then. And because Dilbert runs in a newspaper, I don't do a lot of naughty stuff, so my brand was more G-rated things. But Family Guy came along and said, hey, we'll say anything, we'll break the mold. And that's just always more exciting. So had I wanted to break the mold, I couldn't have done it without losing the customers I had, and that would have been stupid. So I didn't get to go into territory that Family Guy or other other edgier artists got into. Yes, my parents were Republican, but I can't say any of that rubbed off on me. My Trump writing has eliminated my speaking career, so yes, it's limited me. Do I think Trump regrets any of his persuasion? I doubt it. Thoughts on Naval? Naval's awesome. What else am I supposed to think? What the smartest guy I know. Were you a hippie when you were younger? Kind of. I was not the drug-taking hippie type, but I had long hair. I don't hypnotize people, but I use persuasion in all my communication. Persuasion positively affects every part of your life. If you think about it, there's nothing you do where you're not trying to influence people. You know, even if you don't think of it that way, you really are. I have not watched the Grateful Dead live, nor do I like any of their music. Why do I write about Trump despite the loss of income? I don't think I've ever had this much fun in my life, and I think it's important work, which is a weird thing to say, but I think that as many different points of view as can be brought to bear on this, the better off everybody is. I don't know that my point of view on the election and the persuasion angle is useful, but I know it's different. So it's like having an extra tool in your toolbox if you want to look at it from a persuasion standpoint. So it's always good to add tools to people's toolbox. That part excites me. So I think I'm in it. I'm at the point in my life where I don't need other people's money, so I can do what I think is right, useful, and good for the world, and makes me excited, and people are reacting to it. So I'd be lying if I said I'm not driven by the audience's enthusiasm. Yes, I'm in the dark intentionally. I'm actually in my hot tub. Where did you learn to write so well? Well, first of all, thank you for saying that I do. The quick answer is the only writing course I've ever taken was a 2-day course on business writing. And business writing focuses on short, clear, direct sentences. And it teaches you just how to do that, just how to write a direct sentence. And let me give you an example. If I say to you, a boy hit a ball, that's a good, clear, direct sentence. But a lot of people would write that backwards, and they would say, the ball was hit by the boy. Now you think to yourself, well, those are the same. But you'll learn in business writing, and you learn as a hypnotist and a persuader, that they're very different. Because when you say the boy hit a ball, you're talking in the way that brains like to process information. It's very compatible with how you think. First you think, who are you talking about? The boy. What was he doing? He hit a ball. But if I say, the ball was hit, I've got to imagine a ball, and then there's nothing to fill it in, and I'm annoyed because I'm waiting for the end of the sentence. So if you write passive sentences like that, often people hate reading it, and they don't even know why. They just don't enjoy it. Excuse me. Immigration flips. Well, and do we call these flips anymore when it's Trump? can we call it flexibility, or can we call it persuasion, or can we call it negotiating? And he made a big opening bid, and now he's meeting in the middle somewhere. Most influential person in my life. There have been several. I would say my college roommate was one. My mother was one. Siblings, of course. My first editor was one. It's a pretty long list. We persuade for freedom. I like that. What was your mother like? She was undereducated. She had a high school grad degree, but from a very small town. She was held back 1 year. But she was a curious person and a big reader. She was also an artist. So she was a reader and curious, and she was an artist, and I picked up a lot from her. But she was also very difficult to deal with. I didn't have a problem with her, but a lot of people do. Yeah, why do we have a derogatory term for changing your mind? Especially when new information is introduced. Did you know any famous before they became famous? Oh, I don't think no, not really. I mean, I know somebody that sat right in front of me in my day job when I worked at Pacific Bell, who later became a published author, but it was based on the story he wrote about how he murdered a friend of his and went to jail. So it was a story about his jail time and his murder. But it didn't become as big a book as it might have. He mentions me in the book as his coworker. So in the book, it's what's it called? It's called You Got Nothing Coming. And my coworker Jimmy writes about how he got on too many drugs and got in a fight with his good friend and strangled his friend with a belt and killed him. Went to jail for it, but because it was in the context of a fight and they were both in the fight, it wasn't murder per se, he got some reasonable sentence. I don't know what it was, 10 years or something, and wrote a book about it. It was actually a really good book. I'm not sure how much of his story was true. The victim's family wasn't too happy about his version of events, but the book itself was really good. Yeah, definitely Trump is the most persuasive person. And a lot of that has to do with his risk-taking. He doesn't have more tools than other great persuaders, but he'll take it further. He's just braver. Or crazier, depending on your point of view. When will the media become more sophisticated about persuasion? That's a good question. Music I treat as pollution and a drug that goes in your ear. Trouble with music is it changes your mental state the way drugs do. And I don't want some random playlist manipulating my emotional state. Assassination by persuasion? Who got assassinated? If fiction writers wrote fiction like you, would you want to read their fiction? That's a really good question. I'll tell you what you're reminding me of. I remember somebody once asked Roger Federer, considered the greatest of all time in tennis, at the height of his career, who he liked watching play tennis. So as a fan, who did he like watching? And he actually answered in complete seriousness, he liked watching himself. And he's the only person in the world who could say that with a straight face. And, anybody else, you say, you arrogant bastard, there's nobody you like watching but yourself. But in Roger Federer's case, it was a completely realistic answer, because watching him is not like watching other people. It's a whole experience in itself. So when you ask me if I would read fiction if somebody wrote like I do, I think I would be biased to at least give it a try. Whether I stuck with it, I don't know. You can hear the siren? Any other answer would have been a lie. Yeah, absolutely. A runner's high changes mental state. It does, but in a very predictable way. So I do use music in the specific context of either if I'm going to get a massage because it puts me in the mood, sort of that nature-y music that sounds like massage music. And I also use some specific playlist when I go to the gym. But it's always the same music, and it always puts me in the same mood. So in those cases, since I'm controlling the playlist and it's for a specific purpose, and I'm manipulating my emotional state to match that purpose, the music is great. But if you're just listening for music for entertainment, you are just addicted to an audible drug. No, I like music. I do. I enjoy music. That's why I don't watch it, or that's why I don't consume it, except in very regulated situations. It would be, no different than smoking pot or being a social drinker. You want to call your shots. Everybody can be persuaded unwittingly. I would rather get a massage or a haircut from a girl. Best persuader in history? It's impossible to know, because if it was in a different language, in a different time, I'm not enough of a historian to know the answer to that. The effect of cannabis on the mind? Well, it depends on the type of cannabis. So if it's your indica, it's going to just make you relaxed, and if it's your sativa, it's probably going to accentuate whatever it is that you already are. So if you're creative, it probably makes you more creative. If you're lazy, it might make you lazier. If you're energetic and you like to exercise, it will probably make you want to exercise even more. He's persuaded me without you knowing. I wouldn't say that. I would say I know exactly how I'm persuaded by Trump, at least. Question about the kids getting spanked. The answer is I don't know, and I don't know how to know that answer. But I would at least put it as an open question whether every kid is the same, because there may in fact be some kids, and at some ages, where a light spanking makes sense. But don't quote me on that. I don't know any way that you could actually measure that. Scott as a master persuader. Well, what do you think? Is there anybody on this Periscope who feels I have persuaded them and tell me what I have persuaded? I don't drink alcohol anymore. Alcohol is poison. All right, if you think you've been persuaded by me, in what way? Just in a word or two. If it's about Trump or to buy the book, Trump. Believe I'm credible. Power of persuasion, importance of persuasion. So I just persuaded you to think that persuasion is important, and then to buy my book. Religion, health, productivity, Trump. Well, okay. Confirmation bias. Well, good. Selling your business, really? I persuaded you to do Systems versus goals, good. Oh, you're a physicist who was ignoring persuasion. It's funny, once you are cued into it, it feels like there was this huge branch of science that you were ignoring, right? Now, a lot of persuasion is, instinct and by feel and trial and error, and, no two people are alike. And so there's a certain part of persuasion that is irrational, but the underlying concepts are completely backed by science. To be open to the roll of luck. Were your parents slightly racist? My parents were of that generation, and in a part of the country where there really was no such thing as anybody who wasn't a little bit racist. It just wasn't even a thing where I grew up. What do you think I said to Stefan that was... a few people have had that same comment, but I don't know exactly what they're talking about. Trump, the science candidate. I think Trump could be the science candidate. All right, here's a little surprise opinion for you. I think Trump could win on climate change simply by saying he will have the debate in public. Thank you. I'm glad you like that podcast. All he has to do is say, look, I'm no scientist. Let's just have this debate in public. We'll look at the pros, we'll look at the cons. I'll do it right in front of you. And we'll make it, it won't just be an hour. We'll spend a few days on this. And we'll either put it behind us or we'll do something about it. But we'll do it as a country who looked at the evidence at the same time. We'll let the pros and the cons weigh in. We'll give it a few days, and then we'll get back to it after everybody's weighed in and looked at the links and thought about it. You made a liberal upset by suggesting this. Now, I assume that the liberal said that there's nothing to debate, and acting as if there is would be giving credibility to something that should not be given credibility. But I would say the opposite. I would say that Trump probably needs to be compatible with science to succeed, and this would be a way he can do it if he's, to the extent that he's not already compatible. He can say, look, I told you I was going to do this process. We did it in public. You watched it, I watched it, and it changed my mind. And now I think, if that's the opinion he comes to, now he could say, I think it's more important than I thought. He might still say there's nothing we can do about it, or nothing we should do about it, or maybe the prediction models are not as accurate as the measurement of what has actually changed in the past. But I think it would help him evolve to something that was science compatible. Oh, I made a persuasive argument for some government. When I do those long-form podcasts, I don't remember a thing as soon as they're done. I walk away not remembering one topic. Do someone actually challenge his views? One of the things I learned is that interviewers who interview a lot of people can get pretty bored pretty quickly. And they tend to be super smart people, the interviewers do. I mean, you sort of have to be to do that job well. And it's a little bit exciting when somebody contradicts them and has any backing to it. So I think guests probably go on shows like that. And people made the same comments about my reactions with Bill Maher. Said they weren't used to him being challenged, at least effectively. And my take on it is that they want that. That's part of the entertainment. So I give it to them. Seen any good movies lately? I have not. I mean, I've seen some movies, but not any good ones. Do you feel authentic gratitude towards American service members? Of course. Did your dad fight in World War II? No, he was rejected for physical reasons. Sausage Party is funny. Seen any good reboots lately? No. Is Bill Maher a jerk in person? I don't really know, because I only talk to him on air. Do your brothers run for offices? Did your brother? My brother only ran for Homeowners Association. Best comedy in a long time. Good, I'll see it. Any documentaries that you like? I like the movie Spotlight. That was good. Are you dating anyone famous? Define famous. I think the answer to that question is yes. I think companies can solve housing cost of living. Not without incentives, no. I have never met Taylor Swift. Same girl as on vacation? Yes. No, I'm not dating Ann Coulter. Did you practice persuasion before it came second nature? Yes. What do you think about self-driving cars? I can't wait for self-driving cars. They will definitely come. There's no doubt about it. Like, anybody who thinks we're not going to have self-driving cars is cray cray. How many hours do you sleep? 4 to 6. I try to get 6, so I always aim for 6. Don't usually get it. When will we see Trump's third act taking effect in the polls? I would say the next